Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. Let's go over some of the highlights of the last week and look forward to what's coming up in the next week to try to think through how the Mkhwanazi saga and all of these allegations are going to unfold in the coming days. And the first question is, where is Brown Mogotsi? Brown Mogotsi, where are you, Chief? We're looking for you. People are looking for you left, right, and center. Brown Mogotsi was doing so many interviews towards the end of last week, talking about how, there were police in balaclavas and they were at his business premises and his arrest was imminent. Come Friday, no arrest. He was speaking to the media in the sense that right now I'm in Joburg, I'm going to go to a hotel. Tomorrow I'm going to Alex police station or Santon police station. Looks like he didn't go to any police station whatsoever. Brown Mogotsi is not trying to see the inside of a cell. He's not trying to give up that cell phone, that juicy, juicy cell phone. Juicy fruit. You remember that song? B.I.G. Juicy Fruit. He ain't trying to give up that cell phone for anything because Brown Mogotsi's cell phone, if seized by the police, will reveal too many interconnections between himself, Vusiket Matlala, and maybe other people that we may not even be aware that he's talking to right now. And it may also reveal some uncomfortable truths between himself and Cedric Nkabinde, the Chief of Staff of the Minister of Police, currently on special leave or whatever you want to call it, suspension of another kind, as well as uncomfortable communications that he may have had with the minister himself. So I don't think that he's interested in being apprehended. I don't think that he's interested in handing over his cell phone. I don't think that he's interested in participating in any search and seizure of any effect. So over the last few days, we're hearing that, Brown was going to, do whatever, but he hasn't materialized. And in fact, I've said before that Brown Mogotsi is going to sing more than Adele. Based on the interviews that he's been giving, he is ready to spill the tea on Fikile Mbalula. He's ready to spill the tea on Cedric Nkabinde, Vusi Matlala, all of these people. He's ready to spill. Brown Envelope Mogotsi was so angry that they said he didn't pay the bill for Shadrack Sibia when he was having the breakfast with Shadrack Sibia. He was like, well, really? You're saying I didn't pay the bill? Well, I'm going to spill all the bins and then we're going to see who didn't pay the bill, where, and where. And I think that's one of the most interesting dynamics of this. That man is going to sing more than Adele. Brown Envelope Mogotsi. He's going to sing more than Adele. So I don't know where he is. I think either he was avoiding being arrested on a Friday because Friday is the worst day to get arrested. If you don't see a magistrate, you're going to be in there for 2 days and then you're only out on Monday. So maybe he will still, see the police. Maybe there will still be a search and seizure. Maybe his phones will be taken away from him, his devices. If they start connecting the devices of Shadrack Sibia, the devices of Brown Mogotsi, and also the devices of Vusi the Cat Matlala Wetsamanyala, we may end up with the full picture of all of the communications that were happening. And we've already seen a very, very clear picture in some respects around everything that was going on. So Brown Mogotsi remains a question mark. Brown Envelope Mogotsi remains a question mark in the Hosh behavior ecosystem in terms of where is he. Then number two, looking back at the performance of Minister Senzo Mchunu, I think it was clear because in the previous video, I explained to you the importance of reasons. I also explained to you how reasons must be rational and how those reasons must be adequate. Now, some of the answers that he was giving and the advocate Arense pushed him on some of these things. And I'm going to play you a clip. You're going to see how he doesn't fully respond to some of the questions that are put to him, or he actually concedes and then tries to remix. So on the issue of number one, did he provide reasons? He doesn't answer properly. On the issue of was the president informed and did the president agree? He gives an answer which indicates that the president was told after the fact, not prior to the fact. So not only did he not speak to the key stakeholders within policing, he also did not speak to the president. And he gives the impression that the president was briefed more than he was informed. But this is what he had to say around that.
So any of the concerns, all these reasons that you gave about the budget, about the House, and Adams, those issues you never mentioned. In other words, you didn't have to justify the director. So that you also agree. You also didn't mention that you believe that the PKTT was in fact operating illegally since 2022. You didn't mention that specifically.
At the portfolio committee?
Yeah.
No. Because you are recording that I didn't do this, I didn't do that. I do want to, maybe at some point, maybe at this point, Chair, to request the evidence leader just to point me at where exactly does this come from as a provision that when minister wants to take a particular decision, you must consult maybe certain people or whatever. Is there any provision? Because it sounds like I've got to produce a provision where it says so, which then I breached. That's why I asked earlier on, is there any provision?
There is a provision if you are taking what is called administrative action, and you're exercising a public power that constitutes administrative action. There is a provision in Paja which says that you're required to act procedurally fairly, and you must give reasons. There's a host. Your lawyers can point it out to you. If you're taking what you appear to have taken, or what you claim you have taken executive action, then there must be a rational basis for it. In other words, you can't in the morning wake up and suck your thumb and do something. You've got to have a rational reason. Did you discuss this matter with the president before you appeared before the portfolio committee?
Yes, I think it would have come earlier, whether it is January or February. I don't have a date, but we did.
Yeah. So did you specifically discuss with the president the disestablishment of the task team?
That was my purpose, to go and brief the president that there is a particular decision I've taken in regard to this, and I did so.
What was it? Can you recall when that discussion took place? Was it just before the directive was?
No, it was after the directive.
After the directive was issued.
It was after the directive.
So the president also saw on social media or in the media that the task team has now been disestablished by you. He also just heard about it.
Well, I'll have to give you evidence that he picked it up from social media.
So on Tuesday, Senzo Mchunu is going to be back in Parliament having to explain. I think he's going to finish his testimony. Then the members of Parliament are going to start their cross-examination process. He's been more polished than Shadrack Sibiya. Shadrack Sibiya was very contradictory. Shadrack Sibiya sometimes was obfuscating. Shadrack Sibiya sometimes was actually going against the stuff that he was saying in his statement. And he was shaky at times. Now, Senzo Mchunu had a different strategy. He was very calm. He was very confident. Even though he said that the smell of Mkhwanazi is all over. He's like, everywhere I go, I smell Mkhwanazi. Like, what does Mkhwanazi smell like? Does it smell like Isibiyaki? Does it smell like Joe Malone? Does it smell like Hugo Boss? What is this smell of Mkhwanazi, right? Because on the streets, that's a very Isimiyaki type of a flavor, a fragrance, which if you don't like criminals, you should be okay with. Who doesn't want to smell like Mkhwanazi at a time like this, right? Except for Paul O'Sullivan, 4 passports, Paul. He doesn't want to smell like Mkhwanazi at all. So when it comes to Kunu, his strategy was more one of prevarication. So he was prevaricating in that he would not give short answers, direct answers, but he would meanders through all of the answers that he was giving, it was a meanders type of a situation, right? And I think it's going to be interesting to see how the members of parliament then make him answer things more directly and make him speak to certain elements, which, because when you are long-winded in your answers, you're basically running down the clock. And it's going to be interesting to see if members of parliament can then get certain elements of clarity from him outside of bare denials and outside of long-winded answers, which were sometimes leaning towards political speeches. And I think with him, you have to approach it such that you keep him constrained in terms of the types of questions that you ask. Because if you ask questions which have room for long-winded answers, he will give them. He's a very good public speaker. He's a very, very polished public speaker. So in terms of that, you have to be quite cognizant that he could go on and run down the clock. You have to be quite aware of that and try to mitigate that risk. I'm going to be interested to see how, one, the ANC members of parliament deal with him. That's going to give me some kind of an indication of how the party is feeling about him. I think with Shadrack Sibiya, it was very clear that the ANC had no time for him and that they were not going to save him or try to salvage his reputation whatsoever. Some of his hardest grilling came from ANC members of parliament. You know, if you think about the chief whip, Dumiseni Ntuli, you think about Honorable Ngola, they asked him questions that he was not able to handle well or at all. So that showed me that the ANC is done with Project Sibiya, whatever that project may have been. So it'll be interesting to see how they deal with Kunu. And I'll be looking out for that. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see how the EFF handles that. Also, how the Democratic Alliance handles that. They've been a little bit inconsistent in their handling of these issues. I think because they are mindful of the GNU dynamics, and they are also very sensitive to the fact that nobody knows where this is going right now. And if this ends up going to places where it ends up touching, you know, the uncle in the furniture business, Joshua Doe, they don't want to necessarily go there easily, right? Because there's a banker in the furniture business. So they don't want to touch that banker, the furniture banker, the Hoshua Doe banker. Anyway, because that could lead to them seeing the coalitions that they don't like. So it'll be interesting to see. But Begicele is coming. The cowboy is coming. Begicele Inunu is coming to parliament. Not to say that he is one, but that's his most recent quotable quote. Stomach in, chest out. He's coming to parliament to present his side of the story. He's going to have to answer some interesting questions because the tender to Vusi Matlala was awarded under his tenure. Number two, Vusi Matlala accommodated him at his Menlyn penthouse, as well as had a meeting with him at Zimbali at the house of Hangwani Maumela. Now, this is one of the places where Hangwani, the nephew Maumela, shows up in a significant way. So Begicele will have to explain what is his relationship with this fellow and what is his business relationship in particular. And Begicele has been in policing for a while. He has been in ANC politics for a while. There's so many questions that he could get asked about all of these significant figures who have been mentioned prior, Richard Mhluli, etc., that he may be able to speak to, and we'll have to see how that goes down. But that, for me, is going to be one of the biggest moments in this particular ad hoc committee process to hear from Begicele. I don't know what you guys are expecting. I'm going to be covering it. I'm going to still do some more deep dives, just under the weather a little bit. But I thought, let me give you this update real quick. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? That's Hosh Curry Behavior. Make sure you're subscribed. It's free $99. Till the next one.